message that has been floating around social media and the internet for some time now. What we're about to talk about is not anything that's new, but it's something that keeps coming up enough that I feel like we need to have the conversation to really put it to bed once and for all. And it's something that I've heard relationship experts say, it's something that I've heard people who I know say. And what I am talking about is this idea that women of non-color go to college and instead of going just for their education, they go looking for their husband as well. While people of color, i.e., us, don't follow this method and we only go to college to get an education, and somehow people of color are losing because of this, and I call bullshit. So that said, I want to go back to my original disclaimer and keep it in mind for everything that I'm about to say going forward, because I am wildly aware that everything I'm about to say does not apply to everybody, but those who need to hear it and those who should hear it, I want you to sit up straight and I want you to listen real good. Put your good listening ears on, listen real good. So the first thing, getting married right out of college is not the smartest thing to do for most people for a few reasons. And I was about to give a disclaimer, this doesn't apply to everybody, but I've said it enough. So if it doesn't apply to you, you know it doesn't apply to you. We're going to keep it moving from there. So I'll go back to that. The first thing, getting married right out of college is not very smart right off the bat for a few reasons. Now, one, we know that your frontal lobes are not even fully developed until you turn 25. So you don't even have the ability to think at the highest level and most informed level possible until that age. Now, I'm clear that some people do mature faster than others, and I know that there are some people out there who are well under 25 and more mature than some 25 and 35-year-olds in some areas of their life. However, when it comes to relationships, I do not care what the age is and how mature you are. A lot of logic and reasoning goes out of the window when it comes down to love, if no other area. And that is all the more reason why we should wait until a little bit later in life before we make such a life-changing decision and commitment. And the next thing, most people that are in college around the age of, say, 17, 18 to about 22 to 23. That is not the time that you should be on the prowl for a husband. Just think about it. If you could step back into the body of your 18 or 22-year-old self, or go back to the space you were mentally at that time compared to where you are now, because I hope your ass done grew up some. Because I'm talking to the millennials, so I hope you done grew up some. Would you want to marry you at that time? Think about all the bullshit you was doing, your bullshit way of thinking, the games you were playing, just all those things. Go back, take a moment, think about it. Would you want to marry your 18 or 22-year-old self at that time? Probably not. And I'll leave that point at that. Now, while people are busy tooting the horn of people of non-color for looking for a husband while they're in college, the thing that I do not hear people talking about, or rather answering the question of, would be who said that these marriages, these alleged marriages that are happening, are happy and healthy and long-lasting and fulfilling? Talk to me. Where's the evidence that that's what's happening? And to quote the National Center of Health Statistics, 60% of marriages that happen between people who are of the ages between 20 and 25 wind up in divorce. So that further proves my point that we are holding on to this idea of something that really has not been proved to be successful after all. And then that's the other thing. People love to give you a clip of something or a sound bite or one article and act like the rest of the situation does not exist when there has been no other evidence to prove, as I just said, that this is the successful way to go. So today, right here, right now, I am here to be your truth teller and to bring us all back home and back into reality of how we really should be looking at these things. So I'm gonna bring this thing full circle. So I want y'all to sit up straight. I want y'all to pay attention, and I really want y'all to tune in. So I want to break this thing down from front to back, because I'm about to give it to y'all straight, no chase. I'm about to tell you what your mammy shouldn't. I'm about to tell you what somebody should have told you long ago. And the 3 items that I'm about to go over on this list are the main complaints that were on the visual that I brought up earlier, and I'll bring it up again now. So the thing is, I want us to really take a moment to think about, where people of color go wrong when it comes to looking for a man in college versus people of non-color looking for a man in college, all while assuming that their marriages are a success. So I'd like to here it go. So the number one complaint was debt. People say, I went to college and I racked up all this debt and now I'm so mad about it. And the very harsh reality is, number one, you probably should have done a better job at securing funds to attend college via scholarships or some other method of payment outside of student loans. Or you possibly should have chosen an in-state college over an out-of-state college, so there would have been less debt that you racked up. Or you should have, see, I'm giving you options. Or you should have chosen a major that you knew would pay you bank upon graduating, so that if you did have debt, you would be able to pay it off with no problem based on the career field that you were going to land in. So for example, if you compare an engineering degree to a degree in education, I understand most people choose their major based on, what they think they want to be, because remember, we are very young going into college and may not be super clear about our career choice, and that is very fair, and all the more reason why we should not be making life-changing decisions like getting married, because we are very young and still, maybe some of us still kind of dumb, but kind of naive and still trying to figure things out. So we know that if we are going to leave college and be a teacher or to be a journalist, we have to understand that our bank accounts may not match our passion, and we have to be okay with that. And we also have to understand, or you could not be okay with it, but then that's another conversation for another day. Or we have to understand that our bank accounts are not going to look like that of an engineer or someone who eventually becomes a doctor or a successful attorney or a bunch of other things that are much higher paying than the arts to some extent. And that brings it, I'm going to bring it all the way home. Me personally, I was an English major. If I had to go back and do it again, I really don't know what I would change my major to, or I don't even know if I would, know what I would want to be when I grow up. If I had to really go back to that space and think about it, because I thought about it before recording this and I really didn't come up with any answers. But I know that I chose a very low paying major as far as being a teacher, because at the time, I'm 18 going into college. I'm not thinking about what my salary is going to be. No one had really taught me to think about that. That's another episode for another day. And, even though I was on scholarship, I think I was still responsible for like room and board. So some money still had to be paid. And I could have went to school in Mississippi for free. However, I did not care if tuition was $1 million. I was getting the out of Moss Point, Mississippi on any account. So I made a choice, and I didn't care how much it cost. So I'll never complain about that. I always put that in my pipe and smoke it, so I can have all the student loan debt that's out there. But it was definitely worth it at the end of the day, because what my goal was, I knew that at an early age that I needed to leave. I needed to exit stage left and get the hell out of Mississippi. And so I was okay with venturing elsewhere. And then the other side of that, I met some of the greatest people on this side of heaven in college. So I feel like, it was a win-win. And at the end of the day, I landed on my feet with a career that I love. So the debt really, it is what it is. Now, what is your story? How did you land in this space of feeling like you have this huge disdain for debt? Now, mind you, nobody wants to have debt. I don't think anybody will walk around and toot their horn about how much debt that they have. But if you're in this space where you feel like, I have this debt and you're mad about it, why did you go to that school with no scholarship or no other funds? Even if you met your husband at college, your ass was still gonna have that debt. Let's be clear. Number 2 complaint, trash job. If you were going to have a trash job, your husband was not going to stop that from happening, Sister Cat. So we can't blame that on. If I'd been looking for a man in college, I wouldn't have wound up with a trash job. That was probably going to happen either way. But furthermore, we know the effects that relationships have on us like no other. When love is good, life is great. When love is bad, it is a full stop. So I don't care what people say. You probably would have been on an even worse trajectory with your job if you were chasing after the dream of a husband in college, because if y'all got into it, if y'all beefing, you not going to class, you sad, you in your room. Then say if y'all, broke up, You trying to figure it out. You still sad. Say if he left and you were trying to follow him to go to whatever school he was at. Or say if he left and you were trying to go and visit him so much that you lost focus of your studies. You see where I'm going here? Now, if you feel like you have a trash job, what you really should be trying to do is figure out how to get a better job so that it's not so trash, because that's not what we want for anybody. And this may mean, you may have to get a new career. This may mean you may have to go back to college. This may mean starting a business. This may mean, hey, you might have to become a truck driver. I don't know, sell ads. I'm just playing. You have to do some alternative to figure out what you need to do to get to a happy space of what that job may be. At the end of the day, that's going to be up to you. But I want you to know that marrying right out of college would not have guaranteed that you would be somewhere with a trash job. So let's just own that. And if you feel otherwise, I got a property in Idaho I want to sell. So number 3, I think this is my favorite one because, of course, this page is about love, dating, relationships, and making sure they're happy and healthy. And that's what we talk about on the To Be Single or Not to Be podcast. So that brings me here. Number 3 said, no man in sight at 30. Now, this is a loaded one because there are plenty of reasons why no man may be in sight at 30 for you. And it has nothing to do with if you would have found a man in college, because we don't really have tangible proof to say if you would have found that man in college that they would still be there by the time you turn 30, because that's like over a decade later. And we know that relationships do what they do. So all of that said, I want you to think about it. When it comes to relationships, again, there were many things, and I always talk about this, that we were not taught when it comes to relationships. So our ability, even if we would have found a man in college, our ability to sustain a successful relationship and know how to function in that would have been slim to none, because a lot of the tools and understanding and resources that we have now and how we operate in happy and healthy relationships, many of us did not learn that until our late 20s or our 30s or like yesterday. So it's not that we didn't want to have these things, but these were things that we just were not privy to at the time. And these things that I speak of are, number 1, our parents did not teach us how to have relationships. I hate to say that. Our parents did not teach us that. In most instances, majority, not all, of course. Disclaimer. They just said, stay away from boys and don't get pregnant. Great suggestion, but completely unrealistic, because if I was going to school, there are boys that are going to be there. And it's like nature or science or something that I'm naturally going to be curious about what that is. So that was pretty much the relationship advice I remember getting. And when I do like a consensus amongst my other millennial friends and we talk about it, we pretty much all agree on the same thing. So not many of us got real relationship advice. We didn't get real guidance on relationships. We didn't get real tools on how to interact with people of the opposite sex and how to navigate relationships when you're in them, or if a relationship ends and then we expect to be able to go to college and find this proper mate and be wise enough to handle a successful marriage right after graduating when we're trying to figure out our entire lives. Yeah, right. Go to hell. Make that make sense. People who have done it successfully really were just lucky enough to find a partner willing to kind of go through the fire with them, learn with them, see it through, and stick it out enough for them to be, if they are still in a successful marriage, those are just people who wanted to make sure that they survived and maintained and kept that relationship no matter what. So that's not the instance for everybody, and that's not the instance for a lot of people. So we have to understand, like, number 1, we just were not equipped in college to be able to have these happy marriages that people allegedly are having with these men that they marry right out of college. Number 2, we were taught to not need a man for nothing, period, full stop, end of sentence. And our parents must have they forgot to finish the sentence. They forgot to come back to it and tell us, like, we want you to just really be in a position where you can take care of yourself while you are single. But when you get in a relationship, it is okay for you to allow your partner to lead you. It's okay for you to listen to them. It is okay for them to do things for you. It is okay to trust their judgment when it comes to the relationship. And all these things will not take away that badge of honor that I have planted on you to be an independent woman. Because ultimately, you still have to, like, even in a marriage, you still got to, like, take care of yourself. Like, I still got to wake up and, like, shower and brush my teeth, and I still got to go to work. And there's some things that I do that are independent of a partner. But really what we should have been learning was about interdependence, where it's like we depend on one another in the capacity that we need to. But nobody ever taught us that. All we taught was rah, 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 independent. And that's not okay. So with that mindset, How could we expect to look for a man and get a man and be successful with that man beyond college? And number three, you probably do not have a man at the tender age of 30 because when you were in school, I bet your report card probably always said you don't play well with others. And what I mean by that is some of us have an attitude problem that needs an adjustment. Some of us have a smart mouth. Some of us don't like to listen. Some of us like to argue. You may like belong by yourself because that rah-rah energy that you have, nobody, man, woman, cat, dog, butterfly, shoe, horse, nobody wants to deal with that. So whether if you did, I guess, secure that man back in college with how you operate now in that space, that man would not have stayed around, or that woman or whoever would not have stayed around. So sometimes we have to be able to look within and acknowledge, like, it's us. We the problem. Overall, if you think that if you had secured the man in college and married that man, that right now, you wouldn't have that student loan debt, and right now you would not have that trash job, and that man for sure would still be by your side, all these things for certain, I'm really going to keep you on my prayer list, because we know that having a partner in a space that is happy and healthy and whole can absolutely enhance your life. And we'll definitely talk about that more. I want you to know that having that mindset present day won't get you anywhere. But what will get you somewhere is really taking like personal accountability for your own life. Like, look around. If you are racked in debt, student loan or not, if you are in a job that you're not happy with, if you are single and you're not happy about that, floating quotes like articles like these around and having those kind of conversations does not do anything for your forward progress present day. So it's all about, what are you going to do individually to enhance your life, to improve your life, to make sure that you are a candidate that present day a man would want to be with. Because if this is your mindset, if these are the things that you still truly believe, then you really have some work to do. So at the end of the day, the notion that Black mothers or Black families or just families of color were wrong for sending their daughters to school and only focusing on education and not focusing on men, let's just end that conversation once and for all. Like, it's unnecessary. The data is unproven. And we all know that the time that you spent in college, it was what it was. You did whatever you were supposed to do during that time. And it doesn't matter, whoever your person is, whether you met them then or you met them yesterday, you'll meet your person when you're supposed to meet them. They'll show up in your life when they are supposed to. And that relationship will only work when both parties want it, when both parties are putting forth effort to make sure that it's happy and it's whole, and both parties understand what their role is in the relationship. And I know for damn certain that most times between the ages of 18 and 22, that is not what most people, especially men, are focused on or worried about. And I did not mention this earlier, but I want to say this before I wrap up this video. Another thing that we see in regards to this is a lot of people will say, especially around NBA draft time, if you happen to see a young Black man going into a professional sport, it could be NBA or NFL, and you see where they have a woman of non-color by their side. A lot of times people will jokingly say, like, she secured that bag when she was at Duke, or she secured that bag while she was at Kentucky. Maybe she did. That's maybe what she went to go for. But however, we do not know if she is at home on suicide watch. We do not know if she is at home getting her ass whooped for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We do not know what is going on behind closed doors. So always remember that you are on the outside looking in. And while it may seem like Becky did the right thing by choosing that partner in college, if she's still with him right now, I bet you if you sat down with Becky, she'd have another testimony to give you. So on that note, I hope y'all can take these gems. Make sure if you need some more gems, you go listen to the podcast. And thank you for tuning in to this episode. Signing off, yours truly, Shanna Montana.